Yeah. I could play it.
Okay.
You want to hear
Oh,
it?
I can do it. Yeah. That's going to be our intro music for the
Okay.
podcast. What are you
It's
talking about?
it's funny. Let's see.
Because, and just while you're looking that up, just a little bit of background, like why were you inspired to write that? What was your thinking about that for your vision of SAUSD even?
So I got introduced to this.
To be a superintendent, it was my destiny. Through the highs and the lows, I stay committed, building bridges and breaking down walls in unity. Por el camino menos transitado, he encontrado mi propósito y he soñado, construyendo un futuro lleno de éxito.
Trying to help us consider all those things, but then pulling us really hard forward. What does the future look like? And even showing us the music. So we want to dig in a little bit to your thinking around what does it mean to be future ready? How does that impact the arts in the long run?
Yeah, I think the meaning of being future ready.
Welcome back to Artful Pods of Wisdom, where every episode invites you to think like an artist and embrace the boundless creativity within. Today we are talking about the future of education and the arts, guided by the insights of a visionary leader in the Santa Ana Unified School District, Superintendent Jerry Almendarez, a self-proclaimed futurist who's steering many towards a horizon rich with wonder and piquing our curiosity with new technologies. Imagine a classroom where boundaries dissolve, where virtual reality, VR, augmented reality, AR, and artificial intelligence, AI, are not just tools, but gateways to expansive new realms of creativity and learning. From blockchain to NFTs, the digital landscape is evolving, and so is the way we teach, learn, and connect through art. In this episode, we'll explore how embracing these technologies and interdisciplinary methods can revolutionize arts education, making it more inclusive, interactive, and impactful. Join us as we discuss how these innovations foster a holistic learning environment where students not only create art, but also build futures. The future is not just coming. It's already here, and it's time to embrace it. Let's join the conversation.
Future ready is just being open-minded and willing to embrace the unknown and being curious. It's not always about the technology, but it is about the pursuit of something that inspires you to want to do better. And we just happen to be in an innovative state where artificial intelligence, augmented and virtual reality are emerging. And so, as a result of this new environment, it is creating a lot of curiosity in me to discover ways of how we can use it within the public school system to break down equity barriers, to reimagine learning and teaching and leading in new and different ways. Because if you look at the past 50 years, what we've been doing has not been working.
Oh,
Absolutely.
no.
And so the time is now that we have to reimagine public education.
Okay. A long time ago, I heard you say something about being a futurist and how you look at patterns and trends, so much so that the pandemic not created a pattern and trend, but we kind of knew that these kind of COVID-like things are going to spurn more pandemic-like events. So much so that you said something about like zombies, or not zombies, but flesh eating. And I was like,
The ticks.
and it made me think of, as a superintendent that looks at public education that hasn't changed in many, 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 many years. And you think of everything that you just said about being curious and playing and wondering. I I wonder how you create that spark, not only in yourself, but in others.
You know, that's a good question. So I'll start with me. For me, it's about being relevant, being a superintendent of 15 years and in education for over 30. How do I maintain my relevancy in the decisions that I make as a superintendent, but also the people that I'm surrounded with?
Mm.
And my focus is not necessarily on making decisions that's good for me, but what to meet the needs of the generation that we're serving. And I would include the teachers in that generation
Mm.
along with the youth. And so, but through my lens and my experience, I am vastly removed from the emerging trends that are happening across the globe.
Mm.
And so I have to keep my finger on the pulse and learn all of these new technologies and what these emerging trends are in order for me to reflect with my team, who is similar in generation, and really challenge them and push them to think, okay, if these things are happening across the globe, if these things are happening in innovation, if the new job skills are starting to change or the workforce is starting, what are we doing today to get our kids ready for that? What are we doing today to get our teachers ready for that? To teach our kids those new technologies and those new skills, and that's
Let's pause for a moment to reflect. The very essence of this journey is not merely about embracing new technologies or innovative practices. It's about the courage to explore the unknown and the audacity to imagine a different world. Consider the artist who stands before a blank canvas, the weight of creation palpable in every brushstroke. This artist, much like our educators and leaders, navigates through the fear of the unknown, the fear of creating something new, something transformative. It's the same spirit of curiosity and wonder that we must develop as we consider what being future ready means for each of us. How do we prepare ourselves and our students for a world that is constantly evolving? How do we cultivate an early adopter's mindset that is not crippled by fear but fueled by opportunity? As we explore emerging trends, global innovations, and the shifting needs of our society, it's crucial that we also turn inward, reflecting on our own practices and pushing the boundaries of what we believe is possible. The future is not just something we enter, it's something we create. Let's listen in to hear how we define and create a future for all.
important. But future ready again is just to really be of that mindset that we have to be open-minded, reflective, innovative, curious, and create environments and opportunities for people to explore.
Mhm.
And if you build it, they will come because it's messy.
Yeah.
The process of creation is very messy. We all know as we explore the various things in our lives, when you have a vision or an idea, you start to build a container and find the players.
Yeah.
But Jerry, we're all in a big musical.
Oh, yeah.
We're all just cast as players in a big musical. We're going to play.
It is so easy to be an advocate for the work that is being done when I see the excitement in the work that people do. So a good example is you guys were the first early adopters of embracing this innovative mindset. And so, you raised your hand and you guys jumped in and you started to do the work, and then you would invite me in and I'd pop in and I'd see I would listen to the conversations and see the excitement in the eyes of the staff that you were working with, and thought, ooh, we got something special here. And so now I go back to executive cabinet and I'm an ally and an advocate for the work that is going on. And so that work we're giving permission for that work and that exploration to continue. And what you've done here is you have taken it to another level. And now you're models for not just the art department, but you guys are models for the entire district. And you're pulling in teachers that are raising their hands and say, hey, that looks like fun. I want to know what you guys are doing and I want to be a part of it. And then you've gone beyond that because of your presence on social media and the amazing work that you push out on our social media feeds. We have other
The tech, the people approach to the new. At the end of the day, it takes a person to just say, I wonder. And unfortunately, like the futurists in 1809 or 1901, who started saying like, I wonder what would happen if we got rid of all the museums. And people were like, no, no. And you had these immediate, that would never happen here. And then they went a different route of changing what art can be defined as. And I think as you talk about what future can be defined as, I'm curious, how do you define it?
A lot of things are going to change very quickly. And I think with artificial intelligence and the innovation that's taking place now, I think life is going to be dramatically different. And I don't know if I'm scared of it or if I'm excited of it, but I know that, um, you know, the way we live on this planet, the exploration that we're involved in here could be outside of this planet. I mean, we could vacation in other places. We could discover new environments or new atoms or molecules and create something that doesn't even exist yet. And what does that do to the longevity of the human life? And what does that do to learning? And there recently I was on some of my social media feeds and discovered this translation device where you can put an ear pod in your ear and another one in another person's ear and talk in two different languages and in real time.
How cool.
I saw that.
How cool.
It's fascinating.
And so, and that's today,
Yeah.
that would allow me to travel the world and feel comfortable to be able to communicate. And so what the opportunities are limitless. And then what does travel look like? Is it going to take 17 hours to get to another part of the world, or could it take 3 hours? And so it's just, to be curious about those questions keeps me motivated, but also is a driving force behind why we need to spread this vision with our youth and with our teachers and create opportunities for exploration and have fun. When somebody gets up in the morning, they should think, I want to hurry up and get to work because it's fun. My hope is that a student wakes up and says, Mom and Dad, I want to go to school today and not have to.
We go from the box to global back into the box of the classroom or the four walls of the office or the.
So I think it's interesting that you bring that up because I just came back from Sacramento yesterday, and we were having these conversations with our legislators about the accountability and the overwhelming amount of paperwork that we're finding ourselves doing, which are pulling our staff away from the other important things to do, is like to engage with other human beings, being out at the school sites or planning for the future years out. And so, but the conversation we had is if districts join and agree to participate, and the restrictions on these innovative hubs are relaxed a little bit, to be able to pilot different things, learning models, examples of AM/PM sessions, allowing kids to come maybe 3 days a week to a brick and mortar facility, and then 2 days out doing internships or learning in museums and stuff like that. And also the assessments to create more performance-based assessments that demonstrate students' competencies in what they're learning, as opposed to a test that is measuring what they remembered. And so,
Well, and we know that, we're focusing on shifting to really looking at authentic learning and what that looks like in the classroom. And the best examples of that are the arts. It's leadership. It's all these different things where you've got kids doing things that they're interested in and following their passions, which your passion is not the same as your passion, the person next to you. And so it makes it very difficult when you've got 40 kids in a classroom to grade everybody equitably and give all that authentic feedback, which we're talking about also with changing the way that we're looking at grading. So it's what you're saying is important, moving to those performance-based and standards-based, grading systems or whatever assessments. And with that comes time. You've mentioned a lot about needing time for play and curiosity and wonder and exploration. And what we have all learned with our design thinking that, we're starting to do all throughout the district is a lot of times when you think you've got the direction, you start down one path And then you find, nope, that's not the case.
Yeah.
And we all know that's so true in the arts, because you think you've got an idea and you're going to go one direction, and then it changes.
Yeah.
And you get 3 months in and you're like, I haven't actually accomplished anything. That product is not there.
Yeah.
So,
But it changes because
Yes.
of the transdisciplinary research you're
Uh-huh.
doing. You're like, oh, this and that and everything. So what I hear, Future Ready has been around for over 100 years. This isn't really anything new. It's staying contemporary. And I think that's the one big thing we've been working on is how do we stay curious and motivated and inspired with all the constraints? And it's exciting to hear that you're up there talking to legislators and people who are making decisions and policies who aren't living in the classroom experience to allow some of these constraints.
Did you know that some schools are now using augmented reality to let students step inside historical paintings or sculptures, transforming our interaction with art? Similarly, hybrid learning technologies are reshaping education, making learning seamless between digital and physical spaces. These innovations support a vision of a future where learning is not confined to a physical space, but is a fluid and dynamic interaction between digital and real-world experiences. As we embrace these tools, it's crucial to critically consider who is creating them and for whom. These technologies not only help us imagine a vibrant future, but are essential in building one that is inclusive and equitable for all learners. Creating this future is an art form in of itself. It requires time to innovate, courage to confront our fears, and determination to inspire early adopters to champion these changes with thoughtful patience. The journey from imagination to reality is not immediate. It is a meticulous process of sculpting the very essence of our innovative aspirations. So, as we reflect on the transformational potential of arts education, remember every great change begins with a simple idea, a spark of imagination. It's up to us to nurture this spark into a flame that lights the way for future generations. Let's check it out.
And we didn't get here overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. So I think it's going to take some time. I think for me in my career, because I've been doing this for a long time, I will be able to plant a seed and water it a little. But for me, it's building capacity of like-minded people, finding those allies to continue and to carry the torch on to the next generation.
Well, that's what you are. You're a seed planter. You walk around dropping things like metaverse, and then everybody's like, what's he talking about?
Or NFTs.
Yeah, exactly. And then
Blockchain.
and magic and Willy Wonka. Like, we're so excited when you drop these little things and we want to pick them up and go, ooh, what is this material? Because all it is really material. If you consider ourselves an artist, it's artificial media, if you will, to just create something new.
Yeah.
And if we think of ourselves, everyone is a creator. How do we get everybody lit up about that and excited? Because this work that we're doing is really meaningful, and we're so happy that you're sharing the big picture. Because I think sometimes we get lost in the weeds and we forget.
And during COVID, it was really a tough time for all of us. A lot of us went through some really challenging times, but really defining as we were coming out of it, or as we were getting ready to come out of it, and we're navigating it, just what is our purpose of being here? And I think creating space for me personally, it's creating opportunities and space for others to be vulnerable, curious, and grow. And it is for those of the listeners out there that are wondering where to start, is simply find those allies and begin to have conversations about what do you have control over within your sphere of influence. And if it's your classroom, then have fun with it. Work with your colleagues, have conversations. If your grade level doesn't necessarily support it, then find another grade level or another group of teachers that do, and then just follow your passion in that respect. And then seek those allies. As those allies begin to progress and have success, they're going to reach their friends, and that's where that ripple effect comes into play, is that And I get my joy in seeing the work that is being done and the enthusiasm that is happening in our district at all levels, which is why I don't have to post as much.
How does this all tie into our thinking and preparing for kids in a world that they don't even know exists yet either?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the journey that we're on right now, is bringing clarity to what those characteristics mean. And I do know that our kids have a lot of assets that they bring with them, knowingly or unknowingly, to our classrooms, and just really, I guess, in a sense, providing spaces for them to do what you guys have done for me, is like coming to that self-realization that I am creative in a sense. I just didn't know what that meant. And so, they come with multiple languages, and just that alone, given our global economy, they're going to be much more special power, superpower is, and then support them so they can thrive.
Just get out of the way.
Get out of the
Sometimes
way.
that's
Yeah.
what I think.
Yeah.
Just step back as a facilitator, get out of the way.
It's equity and access,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And what does that look like in terms of on a micro level, but on a macro level, when you start talking equity and access, what does that look and feel like? And as a result, what is your metric of success? I love when Robyn always asks me, well, what's your rubric? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what's on the rubric. And so when we start looking at what does a student's success look like by the time they get into the global world,
Yeah.
that's a really hard, I mean, you just talked about 15 years from now, we may not be living on the earth
Yeah.
or vacationing on earth.
Yeah.
So how do you, and this goes back to the futurist in you of, and perhaps all of us, how do we wonder about the future and not go doomsday, and we go into what's possible?
Yeah.
What can we put on this blank canvas that's going to be beautiful?
Yeah. Well, I think that's where the song Pure Imagination comes into play. Is like, this is a journey, and we have to discover what that means for each one of us.
Mm.
I think it does mean something different. I think that we have to provide opportunities and space for even the adults in the system to explore what that means for them. Because how do we expect them to serve our kids and pull that out of our kids if we don't even know where we belong?
I appreciate that you said that. That's one of my wonderings. We're constantly asking kids to take risks. How can we do that and guide them, successfully coach them through that experience when we're unwilling to take risks ourselves? And that's the thing. Failure is our greatest teacher.
In a space where authentic learning is at the forefront, how can we transform our educational environments to not just accept, but celebrate failure as a critical part of learning and growth? In arts education, as in all educational fields, we often highlight the final masterpiece or the conclusive assessment. Yet the messy, error-filled process that leads to these outcomes is seldom shown. This process, rich with missteps and experiments, teaches us resilience and creativity. Should the future of education focus more on these human elements, encouraging us not to only accept, but to revel in the journey rather than the destination? How might embracing this approach change the way we perceive success and learning itself? How might we define the metrics of success in various contexts? What might our own educational tracks look like when it comes to certificates, credentials, titles, and positions in a space where mistakes are a part of daily life, both inside and outside the classroom?
And at what artists do.
Yeah. Jane McGonigal, author in her book Imaginable, talks about the phase that we're in right now is the challenge of imagining the unimaginable.
Yes. And we give students the answers, right? So we need visual literacy. We need to interpret a lot. That's just one thing. But if I've already given you a product and I say, this is it, then how do I rethink that?
Yeah.
Remix it maybe, or give space to have there's multiple answers to that. There's not just one way to peel a potato, say.
It's like a recipe, you have your standard recipe, and it may be a little too salty or not enough. And so I may be able to add my mix to make it taste good for me.
And that's
Mhm.
your flavor.
Yeah.
And sometimes it matters if you add the baking soda or the
Yeah.
flour first, and sometimes it doesn't matter if you're adding, which spices in which order. And I think going back to, talking about not only giving kids the answers, but I've also seen through my own kids who are in a different district getting an answer wrong because how they came up with the answer was not the way the teacher wanted them to come up with the answer.
Yeah.
So they're not only a one right answer, but a one right way to think. And I'm like, no, that's not
Yeah.
that's not what I want you to learn.
Yeah, and the recipe conversation is UDL, right? That's at the heart of the day, everything, equity issues, all the students having access, that's all built into how they see themselves and the barriers that we remove and the barriers that you're trying to remove for the adults and the barriers we're trying to remove for our community so we can all be threaded together in helping support our kids in this big learning lab we call life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's learning while we're living, right, Sophia? It's not just in the classroom. I often say kids are learning despite us.
Yeah.
And so how are we creating the spaces to fold them in and make them
Join a program. Unfortunately, it was at the previous recession, and so there were a lot of things happening. I had to pull out, but I never ended up going back to getting my doctorate. But I almost feel like I have one because of all the books and all of
That's what I'm
all of
saying.
the research and stuff like that. So
Well, we did NISL.
we still have to train it. But I had Stefan from Saba and Stefan. So he had sent this email asking a question. And so I was on the train and I was on my phone and I wanted to respond right away because I wanted to respect his question. So I hit Copilot and I said, write a supportive response to Stefan's email. And I hit the button. And what I did was I actually replied to Stefan and it said, write a supportive response to this email. So I am frantically saying, oh my God, recall. So I go through and I go on Google and I figure out how to recall and I just can't do it. So I'm like, okay. So I sent another email and I said, funny superintendent moment. I said, lesson learned. And I explained to them what happened. And I said, here was my intended response. And it had the Copilot response on there. So he graciously sends me an email back. He does a chat GPT and he sends it back and he tells me, he says, hey, let me tell you what I did wrong. And he gives me a story about how he accidentally sent it. And I was so embarrassed, but I thanked him for sharing that with me. I said, thanks for giving me grace because you make me feel much better now because I was devastated.
Those are those human moments we've got to
But,
have.
and use it as a learning experience.
Yes.
Well, but how
Say that I was watching this artist and he was giving some advice, but he said at the end of the day, nobody really knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
We all fake it. It's true. Just put yourself out there and have confidence, and then people will join and continue to build that curiosity, wonder, and then we call ourselves futurists.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Thank you
For
for
being
the
here with us.
invitation.
We
I
really appreciate
appreciate the invitation.
I mean, what's your metric of success?
Exactly.
It's living the life.
There you go.
Thank you for joining us through the ever-evolving landscape of arts education and technology. We invite you to imagine the endless possibilities of what the future might hold, what changes you can inspire, and what realities you can create. Until next time, keep imagining, keep creating, and remember, your vision today can become the reality of tomorrow. Keep dreaming it, keep imagining it, and keep daring. Thanks for joining the conversation.